Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for tonight's event with artist Jason Naylor for his book, Live Life Colorfully, 99 Ideas to Add Joy, Positivity, and Creativity to Your Life, in conversation with Vice Media's Editorial Director for Culture, Leslie Horn, and presented in collaboration with the Hudson Valley LGBTQ+ Community Center. My name is Leif Cantrell, and I am Oblong's Digital and Events Manager, and I will be your tech host this evening. So before we begin and really jump into things, I just want to give a couple of quick housekeeping notes. The first is that you will see a Buy the Book button down at the bottom of your screen. If you click that, it'll lead you to sign copies of Jason's book. There is also an Ask a Question button that is located just below and to the right of the Buy the Book button. At any point throughout tonight's event, you are more than welcome to ask a question while Leslie and Jason are in conversation. And in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the event, they will be getting to your questions. So please ask questions. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Skylar Roach, the Community Outreach and Volunteer Liaison at the Hudson Valley LGBTQ+ Community Center, who's going to tell us a little bit about the Chill Out, which is their youth program, which a percentage of all the book sales from this event will be donated to support. So Skylar, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. And a special thank you to Oblong Books and Jason for tonight's event. As you were saying, I'm Skylar Roach, the Community Outreach and Volunteer Liaison at the Hudson Valley LGBTQ Community Center, which is a lot of words for a position. I'm here to talk about the Chill Out a little bit, which is our group at the center, which is aimed at teens, specifically ages 12 through 19. This group, it allows our youths to meet with their like-minded peers and to talk about their unique experiences and needs as members of the LGBTQ community. We have a lot of programs for people of all sorts of ages, and I think it's really important that we dive in on this one because being the next generation of LGBTQ+ community members in an age of the internet can be really demanding. And so we're honored to hold space for them to be together, these teens, and to create a community within themselves. I've hosted the Chill Out myself. We always have a staff member with our teens, but I've learned through this experience that they are funny, they're creative, they're smart, and they each have a completely complex and unique point of view, which is what we feel will push the LGBTQ+ community forward in the future. In short, to help us raise funds for these teens is an investment in the continued adaptation, survival, and growth of the LGBTQ+ community. You can reach our center to find groups like these and all of our amazing groups at lgbtqcenter.org. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know the teens are really appreciative, and I'm really looking forward to this event. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that, Skylar. I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the audience now. Thank you for joining us and explaining things to us. Hi, Skylar. And to everyone out there, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ+ Center, like Skylar was saying, their website is actually in the chat, so you can click on that. So now it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's author and host. Jason Naylor is an award-winning artist, designer, and author based in Brooklyn. His work explores the communication of human emotions using bright colors and even brighter messages. He works in both digital and traditional media, and while his work ranges from typography and illustration to products and large-scale murals, the immediately recognizable commonalities found in his work are his electric color palette and his positivity. Jason's work has received global recognition, including the Golden Novum Design Award and 2 Clio Bronze medals, and he has been featured on HGTV and the Discovery Channel. In 2018, Jason was named by Bumble as one of the 100 most inspiring New Yorkers, and his upbeat, colorful creations have found partnership with a range of brands such as Coach, Pepsi, Guess, Xbox, and Maybelline. Jason's mission is to spread color and positivity across the globe, and he is joining us this evening to discuss his book, Live Life Colorfully. Joining Jason and our host for this evening is Leslie Horn, the Editorial Director for Culture for Vice Media, where she covers music and popular culture. Welcome, Leslie. I will now pass things over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good, how are you?
Fabulous.
Nice to meet you. And also I love seeing your, I guess, your studio there in the background.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you. And yeah, this is where I spend my time.
Is that a piece that's in the works behind you?
So the piece you can kind of see behind me is complete, and it's actually the one remaining piece from my recent solo show. It was the one piece that didn't sell, and it's quite large, so it's still looking for a home.
Okay, all right.
Maybe in a hotel or something.
Here's a plug. Anyone in the audience? Well,
Yeah.
okay, we're 1 year into a global pandemic, which is certainly an interesting time to release a book about positivity.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, yeah, the mission rings true more than ever?
Well, I mean, I think the nice thing about the theme of my book is that it's kind of universal, and it kind of works for any time. But I think there couldn't have been a better time, despite the challenges of releasing a book. Right now, I think there couldn't have been a better time. And the world, we all need maybe a little bit more positivity than we have at our fingertips. And so I think it kind of worked out the way it was supposed to.
Absolutely. So the tips, there's 99 tips in your book, and they range from do a cartwheel to putting sprinkles on your food to telling people that you care about them, calling your mom. How did you think of, what was your inspiration for the ideas?
Well, I mean, the ideas started out as like a list of maybe 300 ideas, and it was kind of like I was just like writing down anything and everything that I could think of that could be an interesting like idea, an interesting task, an interesting illustration, anything that could provide a little bit of color and positivity. And I actually recruited my mom to help, and my mom's an artist and she's a very creative person, and I feel like I get a lot of my talent from her. So I enlisted her to help me to generate this list of ideas. And so together we were like writing and brainstorming and just like coming up with anything. And then the editor helped narrow it down to what is now the 99 ideas. So there are actually a lot of ideas that are still floating out there that did not make the cut, which I really liked, but the book is the edited down to 99 version.
I want to see the director's cut.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you about my favorite one if you're interested.
Yeah,
that didn't make the cut.
Okay.
So the idea is to make a potion with all the things that you can find in your kitchen. And it's kind of like, maybe you did this when you were a kid, like you mix the ketchup and the mustard and the mayonnaise and you're like making this concoction, and it's super gross, but the idea is, and I think the editor thought it was kind of gross, but the idea was like, let's see what color of potion, like when you mix all these things, you find all these ingredients, go through your fridge or whatever, and make this magic potion, and let's see what color it's going to turn out to be. That was the idea. And of course the color will be brown because you're going to put all this stuff in it and it's going to be like this gross thing. But the illustration was really funny, and I had all these the illustration was like of all this stuff piled up on this kitchen table that you'd find in your fridge. So that didn't make the cut, but I think it's a great idea because it's just like a weird thing to do, or even to imagine doing. Like you don't have to actually do it to understand it.
Right. What's your favorite tip that made the book?
Well, I mean, the book is basically comprised of like tips, challenges, and like trivia.
Sure.
So I think one of the things that I found really interesting, this is like a trivia kind of thing, but one of the things I found interesting in my research is that the reason it's about chickens and roosters, the reason that roosters crow in the morning is because roosters can see more colors than we can. And what they can see is the general spectrum that we can see, and they can also see ultraviolet light. So what that means is that when the ultraviolet light from the sun starts to wrap around the earth, before the actual light is seen, the roosters can see the ultraviolet light, and so they know the actual light is about to come, so they start to make their noises. And I just when I discovered that, I was like, okay, this is so weird, and it's interesting and fascinating, and who would ever know that, except for now that you know it, you can't really unknow it.
I have that written in my notes as something that I wanted to ask you about because I didn't know that, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's
So
something
weird,
I
right?
never, ever would have thought of.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Were you, when you were prepping for this book, were you looking for things like that? Or was it just like kind of happenstance that you came across rooster facts?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily researching roosters or like rooster facts, but I kind of had my mind open to anything that could be related to color. And I was researching, like I was in the like craziest rabbit holes just about anything related to color, just to like write down ideas. And I stumbled upon interesting things. And like the chicken rooster thing is such a perfect example of being in a rabbit hole, like how did you get, like it's probably on a blog or something, like I'm reading about roosters, but like how did you get from researching color to like roosters,
Right. I have a question for you, which is, do you believe in synesthesia? Is that a real thing?
Well,
Experience it yourself.
what is that? Define that for me.
Synesthesia is the idea that color can take different forms, like a color can have a taste.
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. I didn't know that word. Well, I do believe that that's a thing. And I read about, and one of the pages in the book is about people seeing colors when they hear music.
Yes.
Is that part of
I
it?
think it's similar. It's like color can take different forms other than just like visual. So it could be,
Yeah.
You could see it, you could taste it, you can hear it.
Like the color provokes different senses than just the eyes, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I totally believe it.
Do you experience it?
No.
Do
you?
No, I don't. So at Vice, we used to run a mix series where we would talk to DJs
Okay.
and curate like a custom mix for us. And it's something that the author would always ask the musician if they think synesthesia is a real thing. And almost always they'd say yes. And so I think there's like a really strong association between color and music.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd also ask them, if synesthesia is a real thing, what color is your mix? And they always had really interesting answers.
Yeah, I like that.
So I think what I get from your book and your work is that color connects to so many different things. Music is just one of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you feel like in terms of the positivity, you excuse me, practice what you preach in the book?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I'm a pretty like all around happy person, and I'm a very optimistic person. Like I'm kind of relentlessly optimistic, and maybe to like an annoying fault occasionally, but I'm the person who always looks for the silver lining. And that's just, it's not like a habit that I've developed. It's just sort of the way I've always been. Like that's just kind of who I am. And so I think like when I'm like putting this idea or this concept of positivity into my work, I think what I'm really doing is just like putting my heart and soul into my work. And it just so happens that I'm this upbeat, optimistic person. And I think doing colorful, positive, like messaging and work is, it resonates with other people too. Like people respond to it, but it's just me being me, really.
That's wonderful. How would you characterize your artistic style? Color is obviously important and it's central to your work, but what sets you apart as an artist?
Well, I think one of the big things that's like noticeable and recognizable about my work is that it's very message driven. So even if you can't necessarily like read the message, even if it's not like a typographic thing, it's always sort of focused on a message or a theme. And I think that's something that is very recognizable in my work. And then to your previous question, I think that what sets me apart from other artists, especially other artists who may be doing messaging or message-driven work, is what I would like to like proudly say is the authenticity of my work, which is that I'm saying positive things. I'm saying spread love or be kind, but I actually am that person. Like I'm a super like happy, nice guy as far as I could tell. So I think that is like a distinctive thing about me and my work.
That's interesting to hear because I know that you have a background in advertising too, and I feel like people don't necessarily think of people that work in advertising as being, you know, fully committed to a message and a mission. That makes for more meaningful work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. The advertising portion of it, I guess, like, I think there are a lot of like skills and practices that I still use and probably have, like, I cling on to them and I learned them doing advertising, but I don't really think of my work as advertising ever. Although you could argue that I'm just advertising myself with my work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting thought.
I know you've done a lot of mural work throughout, well, all over the world, really. How does your work lend itself well to these large scale productions?
Well, I think what works about my murals is the immediate quality that I like to put, you know, if I put a message or a phrase into a design and put that on a wall, it's very immediate. And that immediacy is functional for a street setting, because if you know, especially like a busy New York kind of setting, like you have people that are walking down the street or driving or in a cab or whatever, and they pass something bright and colorful. They look because it like lures them in, and they really only have like a split second to ingest what that thing is. And so because I make the messaging very literal in my pieces, I think it's like it has time to be soaked up by the people, you know, so it works.
Yeah. Talk to me about the experience of painting murals. I think you mentioned you do it live and people do get to watch you putting them together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're not always live, but even if it's just like you're on a street corner painting, inevitably people are going to stop because they're curious. You know, they want to know what you're doing. Or, I mean, occasionally people stop because they're annoyed, you know, and that happens too. And like, I painted on the Upper East Side one time, and I never like saw so much resistance from a community, which is funny because you think about like the different neighborhoods of New York. Like, it's, in a way, it's not surprising that of all the neighborhoods, the Upper East Side was the neighborhood that sort of didn't like what I was doing, very generally speaking. But for the most part, people are curious. They want to know what I'm up to. They're fascinated with spray paint. I mean, spray paint, just the sound of it, like, kind of draws people in. And so, you know, doing painting on the street or even if it's meant to be a live setting always has this sort of public performative component to it. And I really like that. And I do well with the pressure of people watching. When people are watching, I feel myself performing and I enjoy it. And it's, you know, it's definitely like it's stressful, but it's like a good kind of stress, and it makes me work quickly. And so I love it. It's really fun.
Do you have a favorite place that you've painted?
Well, I mean, I painted a wall in Miami that I really loved, and it was in Wynwood, and the energy in Wynwood, you know, if you've never been there, Wynwood is just filled with street art and like galleries, and the energy is so magical. And so that was really cool to paint there. I really liked that. But I mean, I also really like painting in New York because I feel like it's my home court, you know, and I know that when I paint something in New York, I know that people that I know are going to go see it and take pictures, and that's kind of special too.
I feel like New York also, you know, you think of New Yorkers and you think of how they dress. The first color that comes to mind is black. Yeah. People wear head to toe black, no matter if it's middle of summer. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting to see a New York artist so committed to color. I think it's a nice way to buck that trend.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I wear all black for the most part. Like you can see on my shirt, like I like to have a little pop of color, and I wear colorful socks. That's the one thing you can always like count on, is that my socks will be colorful. But I wear black jeans and like black t-shirts, and I'm a very like New York dressed kind of guy, you know. But in a way, I think the black makes sense because it kind of balances out the color. Like if you dress in a full spectrum of color, it can be a kind of clowny, you know, like it's a little bit Punky Brewster, and it doesn't feel right for me. If I were to dress that way, it would feel uncomfortable. And so I think wearing black with just like a little hit of color feels balanced.
Right. Do you have a favorite color?
Well, I really like fuchsia, magenta, fluorescent pink. I like fluorescent colors in general. I don't love colors that are really muted, like, dark green, like forest kind of green, or like overly sensible colors like maroon or navy blue. I like colors that have a little bit more electricity to them.
Maroon is a sensible color. I never thought of maroon as a sensible color, but I guess that makes sense. Maroon's kind of conservative now that you say it.
Yeah, conservative, totally.
I feel like you must think of, so when I think of like neutrals, I don't necessarily think of like black and white as neutrals. Like I actually think of navy as a neutral.
Right.
And I think some dark colors are neutral. Do you feel like you have like different philosophies on color that are like unconventional?
Well, I don't know there's so many like mixed opinions about what color means, and like philosophies on color, and I think mine are kind of all over the place. The thing is, like, I love black and I use it so much in my work to balance out the bright colors, but I don't see black as like a dark color, or if you think of black as like sinister, or it's like associated with Halloween or death or funerals, like I don't see that stuff when I see black. I see black as like this sort of like frame for the color. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a little bit unconventional. I grew up, my parents are very conservative. I grew up in Salt Lake City, which is a very conservative place. And when I was a kid, I wanted to wear black a lot. And I remember that my mom would say, like, you look like a hard guy. She would always say when I was wearing black. And so I had to say,
like a hard guy?
A hard guy. I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
But
wow.
So I had in my head that like black is like what hard guys wear, and then of course I moved to New York and everyone wears black. That's just what you do,
But wearing black for you started as kind of like a rebellion against what people were doing.
Yeah.
In a way, is like living your life in this colorful way sort of a rebellion against like a conservative background?
Yeah, I think that it is, to be honest. And when I was a little bit younger, there was a lot of my life that I look back and see was me rebelling. Mm-hmm. And a lot, like I have a lot of tattoos, and when I moved from Salt Lake City to New York, I wanted to get as many tattoos as I could, and I wore eyeliner and like wore all black, and I was very like punk rock, and that was me rebelling against this very conservative culture that I had left. It was basically like I got to New York and I realized like I can just do whatever I want to do. I can look however I want to look and no one cares. And that's kind of powerful, And so I was rebelling, and I think it kind of became part of my practice and my mission. And now when I, do the things that I do, I don't think of it as a rebellion. Now it's just sort of my MO, but I think it was built on a little bit of rebellion.
I relate to that a lot. I'm from Dallas, Texas. So I feel like there's probably a lot in common where I'm from, which is a very conservative place, and where you're from.
Yeah.
So I get that. My hair actually, you can't really tell, it's kind of faded. It's purple, but I need to redo it.
Yeah.
I'm all for color.
Yeah.
No, but what you're saying, I think that resonates a lot. I think young people often try on a lot of different like looks and different like personas and that kind of thing before you land on who you are. And I can see that as being, really endemic to artistic work.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting time this is an interesting time period living in a pandemic. I feel like I can't say that enough, but I talk to a lot of musicians, and something I'm always curious about, and I think that there's a parallel, of course, in visual art, is like, what has your productivity in an artistic sense been like during this time? Do you feel like you've been more productive, or do you feel like you've like hit a wall?
Well, for the first month, like right when everything happened, like literally the weekend where everybody was just like going into this lockdown, a bunch of stuff got canceled. Like a bunch of my client work got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And so I invented this project, and I later called it Graffiti for the Greater Good. But I wrote all these messages. It was like spread love, not COVID, or be my quarantine. And I made these stencils, and I went around like Brooklyn and Lower East Side, and I put them up on the walls. And so I had like mobilized really quickly to do this. And so it was like when everyone all of a sudden was like in their homes, and I was out on the street painting.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea for it was like partially for the essential workforce. Like I wanted to sort of spread this message to the workforce. And it was my way of coping with like, I don't have anything to do. And that's hard for me. Like I'm used to being a pretty busy person. So I did that, and that occupied like the first, week of the lockdown. And then everything sort of fell off, and I didn't really have much to do for like a month. And then because of that project, like people, I put it on social media, of course, people saw it and liked it. And because of that, then a couple of opportunities arose, which were like murals or like different things that it was like, well, we don't have any money, but like we've got this thing. Do you want to come paint something for the pandemic, or do you want to do something for the essential workers? And so I painted a mural that said hope. And then from there, like the Atlantic Center Terminal reached out to me, and they wanted me to do a bigger hope mural on the facade of Atlantic Center. And one thing kind of led to the next. So I had like a couple of weeks of a lull, and then strangely I got really busy, and then I've kind of just been busy ever since. And not all of it has been like paid work or like high paying work. But on the other hand, when I've found, if you do a project, even if you do it for nothing, you're doing it for the world, you're doing it for the community. And those things tend to circle back and result in more clients or new projects. So everything kind of worked out for me, conveniently. And even though it wasn't my best financial year, it was like one of my busiest years, which was really cool and kind of surprising.
That's really cool. I think the answers to this kind of question always vary because people are in such different situations. And I think some people have, they've been like in their homes and had a tough winter, and they're like ready to see other things other than the four walls of their home. And I think probably getting out and seeing a big mural that's colorful and says hope gives people a little bit of inspiration.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and the nice thing about putting up murals in public is that you kind of get the validation of like through social media.
Mm-hmm.
People go see it and they do their selfies and repost and tag. And over time, like I can like watch the performance of the mural, and that's always nice. That's always like such nice validation for me. Like I've painted this thing, and I know that it's resonating with people because they're taking photos.
I'm actually curious about like the Instagram element of your work, because like Instagram is, when it comes to murals, I feel like, there come to be murals that everyone knows. Like there's one, I haven't been to Nashville ever, but there's murals I know of in Nashville because I see them pop up on Instagram. Does that inform your work at all? Does that inspire you? What's your relationship to that platform?
Well, I mean, I think it's a really crucial part of everything, really. But I mean, it's an important part of the mural business. And I think that it would be unwise not to recognize that people are going to take pictures in front of your work. If you're painting murals, like generally speaking, that's going to be part of it. So I think it's important to take that into consideration. And I think you could, I try to use it to inform my work enough to, to maybe strategize what I'm going to put on a wall or what I might say in a message or something. But on the other hand, I don't want to change my vision or like pander to the, to the crowd of people that potentially will take photos. So I try to have balance with that, like if you think about like the most Instagrammable murals out there, like what are they? There's like a pink wall in California, in LA somewhere, that every single influencer has gone and taken their picture because it's pink and it was the millennial pink, or like there are things like that I think maybe if an artist does too much of that, it might water down their point of view a little bit. So I try not to do that too much, but I do take into consideration like what are these photos going to look like, who's going to resonate with this, and also I always think about what's the neighborhood going to think, because the people who walk past this every single day, they have to live with this. And so if you put up this big like political or this like certain things on the wall, you may alienate people because they have to see it every day, and that's a bummer.
Right. Well, it's hard to alienate people when your message is about love and positivity and joy.
Yeah.
It sounds like, it's important to like keep your vision consistent and stay true to your vision, which I think is probably one of the biggest challenges as an artist. What are elements of culture that you feel most inspired by?
I'm inspired by music, lyrics to music. I'm inspired by like poetry and quotes and like aphorisms, like positive little quippy things that people say. And I often find myself like, or even like it could be like a line in like a cheesy movie or something. But I think that like on the list of things that resonate with me and that seem to linger in my well, visual art is usually like further down on that list. I like lyrics to like a Beatles song or something could like be with me all day, but I could see 100 things in a day that I don't care about. And so to answer the question, I think anything that has like verbal communication in it really gets me.
Mm-hmm. Is there music is there good music to paint to, like music that you like to listen to while you're doing your work?
Yeah, I like electronic music, and I've been like a big fan of Daft Punk for a long time. So anything that kind of feels like Daft Punk is really good for me. And obviously, like that's 20 years of music, and also just ended, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
they'll be back. They'll be back.
They'll be back with something.
Don't try to tell me they're actually breaking up.
No, so they'll come back with a new name or something. But yeah, like that sort of genre, like I like French house music, anything that has sort of a house or dance vibe, not too techno. I like it if it's like a little bit melodic, has a beat, and is sort of mindless. Like I can work really well to that.
I can see that. The Daft Punk, like, looking at your work and thinking about Daft Punk's music, I'm like, yes, like that. When I talk about synaesthesia and music taking different forms, I'm like, yes, their music is colorful.
Totally.
What are some of the things you are looking forward to now that the world is like opening back up a little bit?
Well, the biggest thing is traveling. I like to travel, and I love to go somewhere else and paint. And I haven't done much of that in the past year. In fact, I just last 2 weeks I've been to Texas and South Carolina, and those are the first two places I've been since last March. So that felt good. That was exciting. I mean, it was a little weird to fly, to be honest.
Yeah. Mask on.
It felt good. Yeah, it's kind of sucks, but
it's probably nice to be on a plane again. Are there places that you've never been that you're hoping to paint soon?
Yeah, so I'm having a conversation with this guy in Italy. It's a little town. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a place I've never been. I've only been to Milan years ago, and so this guy wants to bring me out to paint. And it's a small town that I guess they appreciate street art a lot, and they've had a lot of big name artists come do walls in this town. And so I think it's going to work out for me to go in the next maybe month or two, and I'm super pumped about that.
That's exciting. I think I speak for the whole world when I say we're all ready to go anywhere else. And Italy sounds really nice.
Italy sounds nice. I mean, I think so. I've had one shot of my vaccine. I'm looking forward to getting the second shot, and I don't want to go until I get the second shot. I'm a little worried. I would be a little worried to travel to Italy being vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, if we're talking about positivity, things are looking up. So
Yeah, they are. It feels good. I mean, I think there's like this energy, and like we can all kind of feel it. It's a combination of like it's getting dark later in the evening. It's like getting warmer, and like there's this like we're on the brink of like we can actually go do something, and everyone can feel it and
see our families. Yeah.
yeah, and it feels good.
It does feel good. Yeah. You know what? I mean, I think I work with writers, and writers are interesting personalities to work with. And I think like I can feel it in people's work that like, they're like inspired again. And they're like, the like winds are changing because people have like better ideas. And like, you can tell they're not just like doing the same thing every day. And it just like the vibes are good. The vibes are good.
Yep. And I suspect that part of that inspiration that you may be seeing like coming out in people's work is because they're leaving their homes and
100%.
maybe they're seeing new things. Maybe they're just seeing something different. Like it's not like they're going to a new place or like traveling to Italy or something. They're just walking down a street that they haven't walked down in a year, and they're just like seeing trees or things that their brain isn't used to seeing every single day. And even that can completely change your work, your attitude, your energy.
100%. And I think it's those like social interactions that we haven't had in forever. It's like, you always hear about the third place. Like everyone has the third place. So it's like you go to work, you go home. What's your third place? Is it a restaurant that you like to go to? Is it your gym? Is it like where in your community is your third place? And I think that people are able to get back to that place and have these like mundane interactions that actually like are very invigorating.
Oh, that's so interesting. I've never heard it put that way, the third place. And while you were saying that, I was thinking like, what is my third place? And I realized that I have my studio that I come to. I've been able to come to the entire pandemic, which is not my home. So I've had those two like different versions of, stimulation. But I think one of my third places is being in the car, and I'll just drive and like think and listen to music. And I never lost that. Like I've been driving around the whole pandemic. And so as you were saying that, I was like, I wonder if that's helped me to like be sane for the past year.
I mean, maybe so. I think like, I think for my husband and I, we have a child, and we've had to like continue to like do stuff with him and be active. And I think that that's kept us a little bit sane, is like having things to think about other than just ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think like what you say about this has actually been a great year for you for work. I think this has been such a crazy time, but I think that there are elements to it that have been really clarifying for people. I've heard of more people that are like, I quit my job and now I'm gonna follow my dreams and do whatever it is, or like people moved cities, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's awesome.
It is. I was having this conversation with one of my close friends the other day, and he is a creative director, and he obviously like likes to dress very fashionably, and that's sort of part of his world, right? And so we were talking about that, and he's like, I haven't been shopping forever, and we were kind of talking about shopping, and then he kind of revealed that like because of the pandemic, he has realized that he doesn't care about having like the latest Balenciaga hoodie or whatever as much as he did a year ago. And it just kind of goes to show, like, just like you're saying, like his priorities kind of shifted in that arena. Like I don't think about that stuff as much because I don't see people that much anyway. I'm in my studio by myself like most of the time. But if you go out and work at a job in a fashionable place, you got to wear the latest thing. And now he feels like he doesn't. So I think that's kind of interesting.
It shifts your sense of identity, I feel like, a little bit.
Yeah.
And in a way that's like really freeing when you don't have people's perceptions shaping what you're doing.
Yeah.
I haven't been to an office since March 9th, and I'm like, Do I miss it? I don't know.
Wait, since March 9th of last year?
March 9th of 2020.
Yeah. Okay. So then what's going to happen? Are some of your coworkers going to go back to an office?
You know what? So Vice has a lot of different people that do a lot of different things. So we have video production people who have been back at work for a long time. We've got, support staff in IT who have also been in the office. Then, people like me who make stuff for the website, write for the website. We don't really have to be in the office. Now, the thing that has changed is, I cover music. And so we would have artists come in and visit and play us music and do stuff like that, which I really miss. But that's just obviously, not happening. But for the most part, I think some people will go back after September, and then most people can come back, in January. But I think it's really shifting how we work. And, speaking of freeing, I think for a lot of people in digital media, which is my industry, it's like people are realizing, I can work from anywhere. I don't have to live in New York City or LA. And that's cool to me that you can be wherever you want to be.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting because for me as an artist, I have my studio and I come here and I do my work, and half the time whatever I'm doing here, I'm doing on an iPad or a laptop anyway. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of be anywhere, but I've had this setup, I've lived this way for 10 years. And so to me, this is normal, but it's exciting actually to see that many other people who normally were bound to an office now are kind of adopting a lifestyle that's more similar to mine.
Right. I relate to that a lot. It's everyone's realizing they don't have to be going into a desk every day. It's good.
I mean, and of course, we're spending a lot of time on video calls, and mm-hmm. that's kind of interesting. And I guess that'll stay.
You know what? You and I probably would not be having this conversation if we weren't doing this on a video call. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the opportunities to connect with people, or even trying to do my book tour, doing podcasts, being a guest on someone's podcast that's across the country, that would be logistically really difficult if we weren't doing video. So, I mean, that's pretty awesome, actually.
Well, to circle it back to your book, I think what I get from your philosophy is just looking at things that might be a detriment and turning them into opportunities.
Love it.
Should we take some questions?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Okay. Okay. Jennifer Jensen wants to know, does the fact that people are watching ever make you nervous as you're working on a painting? It would totally give me performance anxiety.
Hi, Jen. Yeah, it does make me nervous when people are watching, but I function with the nervousness. So I would be lying if I say that I don't get nervous, but I think that it's more when I feel the nerves, I don't necessarily get caught up or fumble. I can perform pretty well and I can do what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel I can even do it better because people are watching. And I think that's the result of the nerves.
So you like the pressure?
I think it's the pressure. I perform under the pressure. And so when there's someone watching, it's I have to, it's if you play music, it's, if you play a musical instrument or you play in a band or something, when people are watching, you don't get a second attempt to do what you're doing. You hit the guitar strings and that's the chord or whatever. Right. So I think it's kind of similar, and I thrive in it. I wouldn't want to do it all day. I wouldn't if I were performing every single day, all day, and that's how I made my art, that would be exhausting. But when there are moments that arise that have the performance that comes with it, then it's nice.
That makes me curious. What's your astrological sign?
Cancer.
Okay. Do you feel like you relate to your sign?
I think so. I'm not super well versed in all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the stereotypical elements of Cancer, what are the traits of a Cancer? Sensitive? Yes, I'm very sensitive. Organized, like sensitive, organized, emotional, empathetic, like yes, all those things. I think that's what a Cancer is. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, I do feel like a crab.
Yeah. I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
I'm a Virgo, and I'm a total control freak.
Okay, so is that like what's the one thing when you say Virgo? What's the one thing that people think of?
I think Virgos are a little neurotic and like to be in control and like order. I relate to that in a way. I like my order to be a little chaotic. And I think I can be kind of impulsive, which is not a Virgo trait. But I'm a planner, which is definitely true of Virgo. So yeah, I mean, I relate with exceptions for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably pretty standard. Like who really fits it to a T, you know?
Well, yeah. And I guess, you know what matters more, like your rising signs and your moon signs, which I couldn't tell you what mine are. But so look up your birth chart and see what it tells you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so another question from Jen is, do you think you'll stay NYC based forever? And Jen is curious what the vibe is like here at this point in the pandemic.
I think that I will always have New York as a home base, but I would like to grow and expand more globally to where I'm able to paint murals and do projects more and more outside of the US. So I hope to be kind of more global than anything someday. New York, you know, has a place in my heart. So I'll always have that. And the second part of the question was, what's the climate like? What's the
vibe like? What's like the pandemic vibe?
The pandemic vibe in Brooklyn, I don't really go into the city. So let me speak to Brooklyn. Williamsburg feels pretty like lively. Like there's people out, there's a lot of energy. People are out like dining and doing their thing. So I ride my motorcycle a lot, and I'll cruise up Bedford Avenue, which is like the main drag of Williamsburg, if you don't know. And it feels like it's almost as busy as it was a year ago, like before the pandemic. Like the vibe feels like it's almost what it was. But obviously it looks a little different because everyone wears a mask, and that's kind of interesting, you know, like people watching when people were wearing masks, like that's kind of cool because you see like the personality that people display in their choice of mask even. And then Dumbo is kind of like crazy touristy and like alive.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of
just for that one, you know, view of the bridge again.
Yeah, and for the Joe, is it Joe's? No, Luke's Lobster, the little stand. Yeah, I went to there and I had to wait in line for a long time.
Oh man, there's nothing like New York City in like at the beginning of spring. People are like, and like I feel like this is like double spring because people are like, I've been inside and now the weather's good.
Yeah. And it's like we've figured out, I mean, everyone's sort of feeling good that like vaccines are happening and all that, but also we've figured out that it's okay to go outside and wear a mask, and we like know what to do with it. And it's not this like this hesitation that last summer felt like everyone was like, oh, like, what do I do? And now it's like everyone knows what to do with their mask and they're living their life, and it's like kind of exciting actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Question from Oblong. Jason, do you have a favorite book or books?
Well, one book that I read semi-recently is by Austin Kleon. It's called Steal Like an Artist, and I think it's probably a book everyone should read. But that really resonated with me because he talks a lot about his like methodology for gathering inspiration, and when he says steal like an artist, what he's really referring to is gathering inspiration from many sources, and that really resonates with me because I feel like it aligns with my practice for inspiration, which is sort of just soaking in everything around me and like dumping it into this like well, basically, so to speak. And when you need to create something, you sort of have this you have this bucket of stuff that's like ready and waiting for you. And that's sort of his philosophy. And so the book really like spoke to me. And so that's been my favorite book for the past little while. What was the other part of the question?
I think you hit it. Favorite books.
Yeah.
I had a question for you. You mentioned being from Salt Lake City. Have you ever done any mural work in Salt Lake City, or is that something that you would like to do?
I have. Yeah, I have one piece in Salt Lake, downtown Salt Lake City.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that actually felt really special when that happened, and my parents came and like saw me while I was painting, and then when it was done, like my grandpa came and he wanted to get a picture in front of the wall, and like it was pretty special.
Oh, I love it. That's really sweet. Must have been like we talked about some of your rebellion as a kid. That must have felt like a real like satisfying full circle moment.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a lot of those, because a lot of the things that I think I was drawn to in my youth, my parents may have disapproved of, and now they've become kind of irrelevant, because maybe like wearing black or getting tattoos. Like I think my parents really hated when I started getting tattoos, but now I have a like successful career, and I'm stable, and I have I'm busy, and I have savings, and like all the things that parents want you to have. Like I have those things. And so now it's almost like the tattoos are irrelevant, or they're like part of this stability that they see me having or something. I don't know. It's like lots of these things kind of came back around in like a nice way.
Yeah. I think when you're a kid, your parents look at these like, this like playing with your appearance and your identity and everything is like, what's, like destabilizing what's going on. And then
like what will become of you if you have tattoos?
Yeah. Then they see you as an adult and they're like, oh, you're like a real person.
You turned out okay.
I get that with my my mom. She's like, oh, did you dye your hair purple? I was like, yeah. She was like, okay, anyway. So as I was saying, like
it's like a non-issue now.
Okay, question from Jill Lee Yu. How do you deal with critics or those who do not understand or like your work? To me, your work is so inclusive and positive, but the reality is that not everyone feels the same. I'm a teacher, and I try to teach my students that all that matters is what they think about their work. But I would love your insight.
Well, in a dream world, we would all just focus on our own work and what it means to us, and like that would be enough. But unfortunately, like you can't do it in a vacuum, and you have to have the response of other people. And so that comes with both the positive and the negative. There are people who are going to like what you do, and there are people who are not going to like it. And for me, thankfully, most people who have an opinion, their opinion is that they like it. I very seldom encounter criticism or negativity, but when I do, for me, it's usually related to street art, like graffiti, murals, and it comes in two forms. It comes in either people who think that all artwork created with spray paint is vandalism. So I get some of that. So it doesn't, like, I could be painting the word love on a wall, and somebody could be annoyed that I'm doing it because they think it's vandalism. But it's like I just have to let that stuff roll off my back, because they already have decided what spray paint means to them, and I'm not about to change their opinion with my love on the wall. So that's the kind of stuff you have to just like let it roll off your back. And then the other form of criticism that I get is often from graffiti artists who criticize my work because it's not real graffiti. And it's not. My work is not graffiti. Graffiti is a style of work, and my work is not that. And so when I get that type of criticism, it's usually pretty easy for me to be like, well, it doesn't really apply. Like, it's kind of irrelevant. And so again, like, it kind of has to roll off your back. But the truth is, when somebody says something negative about something that you've made, it hurts. It always hurts. And so the best way to deal with it, especially if it's on social media, is to like immediately delete, immediately like get rid of it, because you can't like soak it in. You can't, I'll speak for myself. I can't soak that in without it like doing damage. Like it hurts. And I think anyone who really cares about what they're doing or making will feel hurt if someone criticizes it.
I get that. You know, working on the internet, we're open to criticism all the time. And our website did away with comments. Like we don't have commenters, and we haven't for years, but like
Good.
emails, people find your Instagram, they at you on Twitter. And it's like, I think that you have, you know, at least from my context, you have to like know that what you're doing is something that you believe in and put those blinders on, because, you know, who cares what the haters are saying?
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's so messed up that like you could, let's say like you do an Instagram post of something that like, I'll do a post of something that I made, right? And I'm really proud of it. I put a lot of love into it, and it's, and it gets 100, let's call it 100 comments, right? 99 of those comments could be people saying, this is amazing. We love it. This is fabulous. And one person could say this is stupid. And the only thing that will matter is the one comment. Like it's so ridiculous, you know? But I think that's how it affects everyone, you know? The one negative thing just lingers.
But you know what? If you don't have haters, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You gotta ruffle some feathers, I think.
That's what they say, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to my haters, I'll take it.
Totally. Thanks to the haters, I know I'm doing something.
That's all the questions that I have. Blake, if you're here, are there any more questions?
Hi, both again. No, that's all the questions, and what great answers. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. This was really fun, Jason. It was really great talking with you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for hanging out with me for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Jason, congratulations again on your book.
Thank you.
To everyone who's watching this, if you're interested in buying a signed copy of Live Life Colorfully by Jason Naylor, oh my God, 2 of them, you can head to the Buy the Book link. We have signed copies. Jason, thank you again for driving up to sign them for us.
Yeah.
Leslie, thank you. You've been a wonderful host. And
Absolutely.
I hope you both have a great evening.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Leslie. Bye.